Christy. I was like, what? You know,
Yeah.
he's like, I did not know that they were 17. Okay, I was like, holy shit, you're not my age, you know? And I'm like, what is up? I did not know, you know? That's my
That's
Christy
actually
Elliott.
really good.
It's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
It's pretty damn good.
That's
That is
my
pretty fucking
Chris
good.
D'Elia seeing his name,
Did
and
you
his
get
the whole
did you
time my
get Chris
eyebrow was
D'Elia to record
raised.
that for you?
Yeah, no, I sent him a text saying I was a 17-year-old girl and asked him to send me that text.
Broke as shit, broke as shit, broke as shit, I'm broke as shit, broke as shit, broke as shit, broke as shit, I'm broke as shit, broke as shit, broke as shit, broke as shit, I'm broke as shit, broke as shit, broke as shit, broke as shit, I'm broke as shit.
He goes, I did not know that they were 17. Okay, and his eyebrows like half of his face, and some of them were like 16.
Yeah, some of it was. We're in like such a weird time. I would say from now, since like probably 10 years ago, it feels like all of my childhood heroes are turning out to be pieces of shit.
Why was he a hero?
I'm not gonna say like
I
he
didn't-
was a hero. of
Explain.
mine. I'm not gonna say he was a hero, of mine, but I did like his comedy.
I did not
I
like
like
his
his,
comedy.
No, I did not like him either.
I thought he was funny, and I enjoyed.
He has a couple of
I-
funny jokes, but his stand-up overall is not good.
He's not like the best comedian, but I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed his Twitter.
Yes,
I
his
enjoyed-
Twitter was good, and his podcasts were good
His
He's
podcast was good,
hilarious
His Twitter was good.
on those two mediums. But I never
But
loved a Chris D'Elia
He also
stand-up.
he had a couple of shows too. He had a sitcom with
Undateable and
yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Undateable
actually
was
pretty
funny.
funny.
Yep, I
Yeah.
agreed. And then he did Whitney with Whitney Cummings.
Yep. And I love
So,
Whitney Cummings.
yeah,
and
hilarious.
both of them together had really good chemistry. So I'm not gonna say that I hated everything he did, but
Yeah.
I liked a lot of his work. But then, seeing all this shit happen, and I'm like, well, like I'm not surprised anymore that someone that I like in Hollywood is actually just a piece of shit.
Yeah,
You know,
no, I
I'm not
feel that.
surprised anymore.
It makes me sad.
It makes me sad that it keeps happening, but
You-
it doesn't.
You know what makes me like? So originally, I didn't give much credence to the couple of allegations at the very start, because it was just like from media that could be easily doctored. Like one was like an email, and it was from like Rocket Mail, and it didn't have a date on it. And Apple, if I'm correct, or not a date, like a time. And I was like, doesn't Apple have the time? And like, I don't know, it just seemed like it could have been doctored. And then another one was like text messages. But now it's like, there's probably like 20 or 30.
I was talking to Hannah about this when I first read. I think it was a tweet that you liked, Tristan. I read it and I really had to reflect on myself because my first instinct was like, is this real? You know what I'm saying? And I was like,
What the tweet say? Do you remember?
it was the first lady that posted something on Twitter and posted.
Did she like
About
post all her
her-
messages?
She posted her messages later. I think it was
Okay.
either the next day. It might have been in the same thread, but she didn't have any of the pictures yet. And people were like saying some ignorant shit to her in her comments. But she had posted, and my first thought was like, is this real? I didn't really take it too serious. And I was like, before she started posting
Mhm.
pictures of like the text and stuff, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of a piece of shit for just assuming that she's not telling the truth. Like,
What
Right.
does she have
that-
to gain? Like, what does she have
yeah,
to gain?
like what
from
is
that?
yeah, like you're not gaining anything about lying. Like no one's paying you for this. you
Well,
know?
the
You're-
reason
you're
the reason
literally-
that I in only those so I typically will believe people from the jump. The reason that like I didn't initially believe that was only because it was like a Gmail. It's stupid, but it was like instead of a Gmail, it was like a Rocket Mail, and then the other one was a
Yeah.
completely different medium. And so when
Yeah.
there's two separate
Yeah.
mediums, I'm like, okay, there's not like a whole consistency here. So I'll wait. It wasn't like I was like, oh, now I know he didn't do it. It was just
Right.
like, okay, let's wait and see if this blows up, kind of a situation.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And then
I
it
was
did.
like,
And we're all sitting here like, welp.
Not
well,
surprised.
shit.
When
Yeah, and then when was that 70s show? Hyde? I forget his real
yep.
name. When was he convicted?
You know what the cool thing about that too is?
What?
He is a member of Scientology.
Yeah, he
That
is.
yeah.
So-
So that when he first came out as like this pretty heavy Scientologist. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I was a really big fan of his even before that.
Mhm.
I mean, I like that 70s show, but name one other thing he's in, you know?
Can't.
The Ranch.
Shut up.
He was in The
Never
Ranch
seen
with
it.
Ashton Kutcher.
Never seen it.
It's not great.
Yeah. No no shade at Ashton Kutcher. He's amazing. But as far as that dude, I just, whatever. But then when I found out he was a Scientologist, I was like, okay, fuck this guy. And then when I find out this, now I'm like, okay, really fuck this guy. But also, I'm kind of glad it happened to him because he's also a Scientologist. So,
Well, the
Right.
big thing is
Super fuck this
Scientology
guy.
protects the shit out of a lot of their people.
oh yeah,
So if somebody in
money.
Scientology gets hit by something in the law, it's like a huge loss. You know?
we lost Tristan there for a second.
We did. I just watched.
I'm back.
He dipped in and out of the call. It confused me. But anyway, the fact that somebody in Scientology got hit with a legal repercussion is huge.
And
Yeah.
and it actually reaches fruition. Like there's
Yeah.
like you said, there's so many of them that like some bullshit will come out, and then it's just like, oh,
The headline
and
tomorrow
in
is Crystalia
Florida.
converts to Scientology.
it's his only saving grace to to save his career.
Tom
is to
Cruise
convert
comes
to
out and is like, "Nope, I've been with Crystalia for years,
He
never
goes to
once."
he goes to a court hearing, and it's his Tom Cruise's lawyer.
But there are also, this sounds, I mean, this is a weird conversation to have, but there is also those celebrities that, like, I see these allegations for, and it doesn't blow my mind. Kind of like you said, where you're like, well, now people that I had looked up to in Hollywood or that I admired in Hollywood, something like this will happen, I'm not surprised anymore. To me, it depends on the person. For instance, if Tom
Yeah.
Hanks did anything, that would break my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, like that
Yeah.
would completely
mean-
shatter my entire life. But if
This
I
news-
saw who's a good example? Shit. Well, Crystalia is
Crystalia.
a great example. I saw this headline, and it's not unbelievable that this is something he would do, at all. If there was a headline tomorrow that was like Tom Cruise, talks to underage girls and shit. Another Scientology vet. I just want to point
Yeah.
out say, okay,
Yeah.
we're just
Yeah.
pointing it out. If
It's not that surprising, it's not that.
it just
not
wouldn't
out of
blow
the
my mind at
ballpark.
all. I would just be like,
But-
yeah,
But see, that's what happened to me with Bill Cosby, dude. Is like Bill Cosby, because I grew up on Bill Cosby. So like after the Bill Cosby thing happened, and more stuff came out about him every week. Like every week, we're finding out more horrendous shit that Bill Cosby did. After that, nothing surprises me anymore. I'm like,
yeah, that's fair. Bill Cosby
I'm
was
like-
huge.
yeah, like after you take someone who was like the grandfather of my childhood,
And now he's
and he turns out to
historically
be
the
the leading
serial rapist.
serial rapist of all time. Like that's from one extreme to the other, and I'm just like, well, that's the worst it can get. Like it'll nothing will ever
You
surprise
put
me more
the
than that.
hoagie and the pudding pop and you Theo and yeah.
Put the I was gonna make a really dark joke. I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah, no, we'll stop it there. But no, seeing Brennan Schaub and Brian
yeah.
Callen react the way that they did, those motherfuckers know something.
Yeah, they
Oh,
know.
yeah.
they
There's
know
no
Crystalia.
way. Well, but they've also
Yeah.
those are the same guys that have come out, like they'll pretty much defend anybody in cancel
Yeah.
culture until proven guilty. So for them to come out and be
Yeah.
like Brian Callen to say, this is my favorite sentence, by the way, I've never seen Chris personally do anything illegal. is hilarious because they've talked about
Bullshit.
illegal shit that they've done together. So I'm like,
Yeah.
no. And then Schaub seems just genuine. He's like,
Yeah.
fucking, like he maybe suspected, and then, yeah,
Yeah.
he's just crying.
Schaub in this video kind of reminds me of the podcast that Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura had, where they talked about Ari Shafir
yes,
and his comments that he made about Kobe.
that was
and,
just
What a piece
They're-
of shit.
Yeah.
Ari
fuck that guy.
Shafir.
Yes.
Definite fuck that guy. However,
fuck that guy.
definitely funnier than Chris D'Elia.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd probably laugh.
I put a lot of people above Chris D'Elia.
I would definitely agree with that. But I have
It's not
probably laughed
funny.
at Ari Shafir more than Chris D'Elia.
Yeah,
But,
but
like-
let me put it this way: the issue, and I don't want to talk too much on it, but the issue in comedy today is there's such a blurred line between what you can and can't joke about because there are so many people pushing right now the narrative that you can joke about anything in comedy,
Yep.
and then there's those same people will go, you can't make that joke. And
Yep.
so there's a certain level of respect that I have for Ari Shafir on saying I don't have any boundaries. However, he also then, after making that joke, said that was poor timing. I 100% get that was a bad joke, but like, I also understand having a shitty goggles and then agree with taking a step back to be like, okay, let me personally reevaluate my boundaries. Because if I'm a comedian, every single joke that I make is gonna offend somebody to the same extent that the Kobe joke offended the most amount of people, right?
Right.
So there's going to be
Yeah.
somebody that fired up about every joke. I'm just glad that he took the step back and reacted the way that he did, but I understand how he got there, right? Like,
yeah.
I understand getting to that point because in comedy today, it's like, where is that line? And you almost have to straight pole vault over that line.
Yeah.
To
And you
find
kinda,
it.
like you said, you're gonna offend everybody because everyone
Right,
wants to have freedom of speech until it talks about something that they're sensitive about, you know.
right.
But it's
But everybody was
I've-
sensitive about
my-
Kobe. Come on, man.
yeah, my thing with Ari Shafir is I'm like, how do you not know that? Like, how do you not know that that's gonna be taken poorly? It's like, what was it, like 3 days after
I thought
the
it was the
Grammys
day
or something like
of.
that?
Truth be
was
told, I
something
think he
it
might
was
have.
hours after he died.
I think he's
I
a
thought it was
sociopath.
shortly after the Grammy, wasn't it? He is, for sure. He's got to be.
But that's the explanation. He doesn't have the same level of empathy that people have, like or
I
any
guess,
at all,
but
really.
even like emotion aside, just as a businessman, you should know that that's not a good move.
But that's what I'm saying in comedy is you don't know because you can get
guess.
that's the high risk, high reward game in comedy. Is if you make a joke
true.
that's super controversial, all of your fans and fans of other dark comics will go, "Oh my God, this guy is the best." And if other people like news stations pick it up, you have to find the line of controversial that gets people talking about it in news articles,
Right.
slamming you. But everybody else
Not.
knows exactly. So it's that's what I'm saying is that line
to
is
the level
so
you got it.
blurred that like it's pretty impossible. It's a guess. It's a complete guess. Chris D'Elia is a great example. He makes jokes in his latest comedy special about like I think it's racist
think I saw
facial
that one.
expressions where he's like, you can't be racist by making a face, and he'll say something that isn't racist, but then he'll make a face like he disagrees with it, and it's a
Right.
funny concept, and he's only laughing at the concept, and he makes it very clear that he is laughing at the concept of like, is this okay because I'm not saying it, you know, and
Right.
that's more of the real premise of the joke. But then so in the political climate that we have today, that can somehow dodge cancel culture, and everybody, you know,
Right.
is fine with that. But then Ari Shafir makes a joke about, you know, Kobe right after his death. Both have to do with deaths. I would argue that the Black Lives Matter movement is a bit more widespread than even the Kobe death, or equally as much. And there's more death, you know. Like,
I would say it's not exactly the same though, because like on one aspect, you know, you're talking about racism as a whole, and it's not even directly talking about like a racist act or something. It's kind of making light. It reminds me a lot of like something Louis C.K. would do, which Louis C.K. I have my own kind of opinion on him. That's a whole nother subject, but with what Ari did is like, it's like making fun of someone who was looked at as a role model to the whole country. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like making fun of someone's dad that just died, but to millions of people. And
Yeah.
to me, that was just like when I saw him do that, I was like, I'm no stranger to Ari Shafir's comedy, but then I'm like, how do you not know this is gonna blow up in your face in a bad way? Not in a like you're that like this isn't a bad publicity is good like all publicity is good publicity type of situation. This is
Mhm.
like a you should know this won't end well type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
But whatever. But that's what the talk that Tom Segura and Burt Kreischer had about Ari is what this kind of sort of felt like when I was watching this video. Uh, it really only looked like Schaub was the one who got it. And whereas when I watched the one with Burt Kreischer and Tom Segura, they both knew it was fucked up.
Yeah.
And both of them, the conversation was so much different because they would say, like for the first 15 minutes of that video, I don't even think they said much of anything. They were like, "That's fucked up." Yeah, I don't know. It's,
Yeah, no, I agree. And
and
Schwab's quiet and tearing up and
Yeah.
crying and shit. Schwab's gonna go beat his ass if it's true though.
oh yeah,
That's a fact.
retired MMA or no retired, like he's still gonna fuck him up. That's just, it's so messed up that we are in this like, it's like a blessing though that we're in this era where shit like this can come to light, you know, where these kind of things were probably happening for decades and there just wasn't the type of
Right.
recording or voice about it. But it's also fucked up because you find out just how many shitty people there are in Hollywood.
I
and
wish
in
there was a way
celebrity.
for just everybody to come out with their allegations all at once. You
That's
know,
where
let's
we're
just
headed
get it
with the,
over with, man.
That's what we're headed with what is it China's doing? The
Oh,
social
no, fuck that.
social ranking.
That should never touch a developed country. You can quote me on that. That is so wrong. Because that can be so abused. There are stories of people getting stuck in towns because they got misreported for something because somebody disagreed with them. Like for instance, if an ex
Right.
doesn't like you, she can misreport you for something. It dropped their score low enough that they couldn't use public transportation.
Wouldn't that suck?
You
Wouldn't
can't do that in
break up,
America.
you break
can't
up
do
with
that
your
out here.
girlfriend, you
No, you
break up with your girlfriend and she like ranks you the lowest you can
Yeah.
and you can't even get home now.
The problem with things like the social ranking system that China's implementing and communism and things like that is in their very base state and theory, they are phenomenal ideas, but can never exist because they assume perfection on the side of
It's-
every single, partaker,
It's assuming the
I
world's
guess.
perfect.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
that's not true.
and it's never gonna be perfect.
Let's make this episode about cancel culture. I feel like this is a good
Oh, boy.
conversation to have.
Why are you canceled? Are you getting canceled, Joe? Is that what you want to talk
Yeah, my
about?
213 Twitch followers. One of them
Some
said I
old
didn't
tweets.
thank them for following me, and
What did you did you
Some
pull
old
up,
tweets resurfaced.
did you
No,
pull a
there's-
PewDiePie?
no, there are no old tweets that you could find for me.
Speaking of cancel culture, let's talk about that dude, the dude that just floated through cancel culture unscathed after breaking the first commandment.
Who?
He can do what he wants.
PewDiePie.
Well, yes, his I think the reason I think he got a pass though is twofold. One, he handled his apology exactly correctly.
Yeah,
There was no bullshit.
I would say his apology was pretty it was acceptable. I'll
Yes.
say that.
But then second of all, English isn't his first language.
I'm not buying that one though.
Well, but what I mean is his reason for it being loose was it's oftentimes said in games. That's 100% true.
That's true.
I would say the first time I heard that word was in a Call of Duty lobby. Okay? And so
yeah,
if English is not my first language and I'm learning the negative slangs or just the swear words and things like that, I may not be able to learn the same amount of like, oh shit, that's
Learn
not
how
something
heavy
I
it is.
say. Well, right, because I don't.
Yeah.
It's what probably not the same as it is in Sweden. You know, and
to be fair, Sweden's kind of a racist country anyway.
also true. We kind of mull over that.
What? Wait, what? What?
Yeah, you didn't know. So in Sweden for Christmas, I think it's the week of Christmas. I guess in Sweden folklore, Santa didn't have elves; he had slaves.
Oh, oh
and
boy.
and so there was this big thing that was
Oh,
floating around
man.
Twitter. There's a big thing that was floating around Twitter about a year or so ago. There was a parade for Christmas, and in this parade there was about, I don't know, like hundreds of little white kids that put blackface on to represent these quote unquote elves, basically slaves that make presents. So it's
It's not racist if it's elves.
it's a
Jesus
country. Yeah, it's a country that was the biggest thing to me, because whenever you hear someone arguing about like, oh, America's not perfect, we have, Sweden has this, Sweden has, you know uh freedom of this, or more freedoms than us, and it's cheaper to live there, and I'm like, okay, well, they also very publicly and very
Yeah.
vocally support racism.
Every single country wants to be able to go, we're not the worst that country is.
Right.
America is just the loudest about their shit.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say.
I think that it's easy to shit on America. Now, do
Yeah.
I believe that America is the best? No, I think if I could move to
Oh, no.
if I could move to New Zealand right now, see you guys.
Dude, I think the best country right now is probably Iceland, because what's happening with Iceland, dude? Why is everyone trying to everyone's flipping their shit about Iceland? Like,
I
I've
don't
never
know.
been there, so I don't know if it's that great. I've been around it, but I've never been to the country. But there was like there was like the talk about where President Trump posted that this was probably the funniest thing that he ever posted, whatever your political view of him is, and he posted a Photoshop picture of the Trump Towers on Iceland, and he tweeted and he said, "I promise I won't do this."
Was that real?
And that was real, 100% real, and that was probably the only thing that I've ever wholeheartedly laughed at that he
Do you guys
posted.
follow him on Twitter?
I do
No.
not.
I
No.
can't. There are people
I
that do
can't.
because they're like, oh, I find it funny, blah blah. I'm like, dude,
I-
I can't. He tweets so much, and I
I
hate.
did for a short amount of time. I did because not because I supported him, but because I wanted to stay current on the
Yeah.
on the bullshit he was doing. And then after a while, I just couldn't anymore. It was like following your racist grandpa,
Yeah.
that you hear the shit he says and it doesn't surprise you, but then you never say anything to
I
him.
love that we are describing our president as our racist grandpa. By the
That's
way,
exactly what he is.
it's
That's
a
exactly
fact.
what he is.
I don't follow him, but it shows up on the timeline all
Oh,
the time.
all the
with people
time.
quoting
Yeah.
his
Even if you
tweets or-
don't even if you don't follow him, there's so many news companies that just literally the only content they produce is his Twitter. They just
Yeah.
they just copy paste his Twitter and it makes headlines.
So, regarding cancel culture, this is the question I want to represent. Okay, and it's a difficult
Alright.
one, and we may not even be able to. We I'm sure can't find a solution to it or answer it, but I want to hear everybody's individual answers. At
You're
what
making
point?
Tristan uncomfortable.
At what point do you think people can be forgiven? Do you think it's not a time period? It's very much has to do with the level of what they've done. For
I think it
instance,
depends.
I think it definitely depends.
Okay.
I think the thing with cancel culture is that I think people are too quick to cancel, but I think when there's enough evidence, aka Crystalia, I think it's needed. I think you can't have a society that praises these people that are open pieces of shit
yeah,
when there's evidence against it.
right.
But then I also saw in that same tweet that I was talking about, Tristan, people were making references between Crystalia and Louis C.K. And I don't think Louis C.K. is on that level. Like, I still think that he went through the necessary
Yeah.
forms of apologizing.
Well,
and
that's the
everything.
other thing about Louis. Louis literally asked for consent,
Yeah.
and
And
they were
that
they were everybody was of legal age. Everybody was consenting adults. Being uncomfortable by something, I get it. One, it's fucking weird. We can all agree
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, we can all agree it's weird.
Right, but like getting canceled because you're weird and people saying that's inappropriate. Technically, all consenting adults. I understand that there may have been some people said there was a power difference, but some of the people they were talking about had better careers than Louis C.K. So I was like, I don't think it had anything to do with the power difference for him. I think he just has a weird fetish.
Yeah.
So
And
go away for a
for-
few years for being weird, And-
Sorry, every time you bring up Louis C.K., I just think of the dorky cop that he played on Parks and Rec. So I just laugh every time.
And oh
to everyone listening that doesn't know anything about what we're talking about, we're kind of talking like grazing over the topics, but not really saying what happened. I would just encourage you to Google it because
yeah,
the whole situation is a little too big to
right.
probably hit on the head in the little time we have. But it's worth it's worth knowing. It's worth knowing that's what's happening.
Right.
But yeah, like Louis C.K., I don't think that he deserves to never have a career again, and I think
Agreed.
that he's actually doing some good things by I saw he had a special that he released in a nightclub at some I don't even remember where, and someone unfortunately recorded it and put it out on YouTube, and so now he has to make a whole new special, and it's unfortunate because it's like this is a guy who made a mistake. It was a mistake that some people might say is bigger, some people not as much, but he made a mistake. He
Louis
addressed it.
C.K. was whipping his dick out in front of people, okay?
Yeah.
But he asked.
In his own hotel room.
In
which
his
is-
place, he would
that's
say,
not
"Hey,
even-
you want to
that's
come
not
up and mess
even-
around?" And they would get there, and he would say, "Hey, can I?"
Hey,
Whip my
I got
dick
Chris
out.
D'Elia in here.
Yeah, to be fair, that's not even a good excuse for him, I guess, anymore, because now, I mean, Chris D'Elia was trying to do that, he was trying
But
to
what I'm saying
lure
is,
these girls to
he
his
was
room.
inviting consenting adults over. It wasn't. He didn't surprise them. So in this case, I'm saying it wasn't like a "What's up?" Like I'm here
Right.
all of a sudden. It wasn't like he popped up or snuck into people's houses and did this. It
Also-
was, "You want to come mess around?" They would come up. He'd say, "Hey, one of the things that I like to do is whip my dick out in front of people and touch myself." And they would go, "Oh, that's weird, but okay." And so he was like, "Cool," and he would do it. And then a bunch of people were like,
then
"Yeah,
when
that's
they-
kind of weird," and people
And then when they
canceled him.
actually saw him do it, they're like, "Oh, I thought you were joking. This is fucked up. I want to leave."
Right, and it is, and I 100% understand it being weird and uncomfortable. But at
Sure.
what point do we say this is
Yeah.
a kink, or this is, in my
And it's
opinion,
just-
he's a weird dude.
It's
Yeah.
definitely kinky.
I mean, Tristan.
It's Tristan would know. Also, side note, can we talk about how just reading the messages from Chris D'Elia made me uncomfortable? The way that
Yeah,
he
and they
talked.
sounded like
Hey, I'm
him.
in Boulder. He's like, hey, I'm in Boulder.
And then when she would say, she
How
was like,
old are
"Yeah, I
you?"
don't want to." She was like, "Yeah, I don't want to go to your room." And he said, "What did he say?" He was like, "Well, that makes me mad, grr." I was like,
He
"What the
would- yeah.
fuck?"
Yeah, he-
What?
There's another one too where he was like, ugh, you're so annoying. And I was, is this a
Is-
14-year-old girl?
It sounded like a 14-year-old girl on Kick. Like, what the fuck?
But can you not see him from
Oh,
how
I
he's
could totally
spoken?
Oh,
see him.
of course I can.
I can totally
Dude.
see him. That's what.
It's how he
made
talks in
me-
his stand-up. It's literally how he talks in
Yeah.
stand-up, where he's like, "That makes me mad." Grr. Like, I see it, and that's my problem. That's when all of them are coming out. The one thing that was consistent, regardless of emails or text messages or whatever,
Yeah.
the one consistent thing was every single one
Is
of
how
them
he talks.
sounded like D'Elia, and I was like, "Oh
Yep.
no!"
And it's gotta be real. There's no way that you can perfectly mimic.
And
his
it's so many
personality for
people.
those-
It's
And
so
so many,
many now.
Yeah, and it's. Yeah.
And
I
then
mean,
his response was the best. He tells first of all, if you're gonna make a public apology, don't do TMZ, okay? Like,
Yeah, for real.
I'm just saying, put it on your Twitter. You're getting shit on Twitter. Put it on your Twitter. Then let news outlets handle the rest. But I'm not gonna make a personal apology to TMZ. But he was like, obviously none of this is true. I've never met them in my life, but I'm sorry if I offended some people. And I'm like,
It's like this isn't me, but if it were,
yeah, exactly. And I was like, shut the fuck up. You so did it. You just your mom
Oh,
caught
yeah.
you. She goes, "Did you load your dishes?" You go, "No, of course I did. But I want you to know that if I ever don't load my dish, I am very sorry for doing
It's
that."
yeah,
Like, sounds like
He's, like,
somebody who
trying to
didn't load their
cover-
dish.
like trying to cover all bases without directly saying,
Mhm.
direct ownership of the act.
So in regards to it's very situational, and I 100% agree. It's very situational on like how long somebody needs to serve a sentence.
Mhm.
I think that cancel culture is a little overblown on certain mediums. For instance, I think Twitter goes off. Like last night in the middle of the night, Ansel
Oh, yeah.
Elgort was trending. People were saying he was racist because an account popped up that said they were friends with him in high school very suddenly. They didn't say their name, and they said, "Yeah, when we were learning about the Niger River, he as
Oh,
a
no.
joke." And so they didn't say, if I'm correct, they never said their name. They didn't say if they were still friends with him. It was just like a one-off quick thing, and everybody was like, "Well, Ansel's over." And I was like, "Hang on. We
Yeah.
have no idea who this person is because they're not public about it. We have no idea if they really did go to high school. Second of all, we can't prove that he ever said that. And
Yeah.
and also, if was he 13? The dude's
It's-
20 something now raising money for Black Lives Matter. Like I think 13-year-olds, like obviously it's horrible, but I think that again to the situational things, if you're a 13-year-old and you just learned a word at 13, I didn't know.
I mean, at 13, you're basically just learning how to speak.
Well,
Yeah.
you have no idea what your words mean. How many times did
Yeah.
you over insult somebody because you said something and you didn't mean to,
Right.
or just not mean to do something when you were?
It's hard. It's hard because in the midst of trying to find that middle ground,
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of room for obviously error in just making
Right.
the wrong assumption, but the bigger problem is that it discredits the other party, and it's hard because it's like whether you want to side to one end or the other, whether you mean to or not, it discredits the other spectrum, the other end. And that's where, I mean, there's been countless people who are serving rape charges that they were found innocent of, and they haven't even been released from prison yet.
Right.
But there's also rapists that are running free, and no one can
Mhm.
ever say anything about them because maybe someone's police charge or whatever was thrown out or not given serious consideration. And it's hard to touch on subjects like that because it's not ever a subject you can think one way or the other because it is so situational. There is so much evil shit that happens that it's like I wasn't there, but it's still fucked up either way.
I hope that we get to a point of just forgiveness. I think of like, oh, you were a kid and this was before you knew better.
I hope we find a better way to hold people accountable, and I don't know what it's going to be because any way to hold people more accountable is infringing on freedom, and it's again such a weird place to be in because it's like you shouldn't have to, but then also you see some shitty people out here that are doing some absolutely monstrous shit,
Mhm.
and you're like, something has to stop this, but what can stop that?
Dude, I hate when companies drop people because of stuff because in my head I'm always like, you know how many companies do racist shit right now?
That
Are
yeah.
sexually abusive or sexually
Yeah.
discriminatory, like so when somebody online does something and their sponsor drops them, like for instance like the Keemstar G Fuel thing, I'm
Right.
like, you're about to tell me right now that G Fuel as a company has never once been like no, like
My thing on that is that like it's not even for me, it's not about there's more companies out there doing worse shit. It's that you don't even know. When these companies like Keemstar's G Fuel heard about him, they didn't watch his videos. They just had a sheer number of people that were telling him that he's a piece of shit and telling them to drop him. And they were like, well, this is however many people are telling us he's a terrible person, and this is however many potential customers we're losing.
mhm.
It's worth it to just drop him.
And that
They're
that
so
I
worried
understand.
about the numbers
Right.
and the profit that they don't do research. And I think that's where things fall apart because it's like, yeah, even though Keemstar's a piece of shit, and if they did their research, they probably still should have dropped him.
Mhm.
It's that they didn't do the research. And I feel like you should never charge someone without at least, digging into it.
100%. 100%. Tristan, you've been ultra quiet during this whole thing. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Tristan showed his discomfort at the beginning of this
No,
topic.
my thing with cancel culture is that you can't cancel someone, say like when an old tweet from like 7 years ago resurfaces.
Depending on the
That's-
tweet.
Yeah, depending on the tweet.
Yeah,
Right.
That's
depending
what
on
I
the
don't
tweet
like.
to me. Honestly, I've seen some tweets and I'm like, it's so
I may
fucked
not
up.
like it. I may not like what they say, But if it was 8 or 9 years ago, and they didn't know, like what you were
Yeah.
saying, like they didn't know what they were doing.
Well, I think it depends because if there's a 40-year-old man and he makes a tweet 10 years ago and he's 30, still he's.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at. That's what
Right.
I'm
But-
saying.
But I still think if you're old enough to be, I mean, kids grow up fast these days.
Yeah, but
maybe
some
not.
don't. But some don't at all, though.
Like
Some
the whole
kids
Kevin
don't.
Hart, like the whole Kevin Hart thing. Like he may have not been canceled, but
Right.
he was supposed to host the Oscars that year, and they
Right.
completely dropped him
Right.
because
Yeah.
of those tweets that came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree to a degree. It's like it depends on the case because I have seen some other stuff where like people have made a tweet and they might have only been like 14 years old, but the tweet is like so vile.
It's
And
something
it's
you shouldn't.
so
It's something you
awful. I'm
shouldn't say
like-
no matter what.
Yeah, I'm like, even if I was 10, I would know I probably shouldn't post this on the internet for the whole
Right.
world to see,
But did you understand that the internet was for the whole world to see when you were 10? Because I truly didn't understand the
I
impact that social media had until I was like minimum 16.
I did, except for Facebook. I never posted anything bad on Facebook, but just going back and reading some of my posts, I was like you can obviously tell I'm young. I
Mhm.
never said anything bad, but I think Facebook gives this kind of like false reality of like you're only talking to your friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely
And I
does.
think- I think Facebook is where people have like said,
I think
probably the
everybody
most-
but Twitter has that though.
I guess so. I mean,
Twitter's
even
the only one where I
Instagram,
feel
people-
like anybody could see it.
people
Yeah.
still are trying. Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, I also don't like Facebook, so.
Fuck Facebook, we can't agree on. But in the specific situation of Chris D'Elia, do you give him a certain period of time that he could come back? Or do you think this is like probably not?
Ah,
I mean, I never liked him in the first place. So-
yeah.
But
If
that
it
but
were
we if,
me-
when speaking on in order for so cancel culture in order to the concept of canceling someone because they do something bad enough that they should no longer be able to make money off of the public or be represented in a way to the public that they can make a monetary gain. In order for that to last, you have to have systems in place. So it couldn't just be like, well, now we've got Chris D'Elia. I don't like his comedy, so he can never come back. Like, what's
Right.
the real, like, being objective, just as a celebrity, he's done this. I
Well,
personally
I just couldn't
think.
for.
Go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
Damn it, we're in a Canadian standoff. I personally believe in the case of, in this case, if the places in which he was, so he's soliciting from underage girls, that makes him a creep. Okay, so
Right.
so you from now on are aware that this dude is a creepy dude. People don't just like stop being creepy. Okay, so I think for that reason, cancel culture kind of transcends into just people people will just suddenly not like his character.
Yeah,
So it's not even just about what he did anymore.
it's about his real personality coming to light, and I think
But for the
it's-
actions, I would say for anything with underage people, I'm almost always gonna be like, no.
Yeah,
Like,
I would say to cancel him just because number one, like what you said, it kind of shows his character, and if it's
Mhm.
happened to this many people, it's not like it's this is him, this is who he is.
right.
Right.
I would also say for some people, it's different whether the act is committed versus if it's attempted, and for me, it's not because it's like if you were going to try to do this, thank God you didn't. But
100%.
what would have happened? What would have happened if he did?
And I'm sure there are situations where he did. It's not like
I'm
Chris.
sure. And I'm
There's
sure
no
not.
way he tried 40 times and
failed 40.
Ford failed, and he was like, I'm still gonna try. Like, I'm
And-
gonna give
and
it
that
another
even-
try.
right. That even breaks my heart even more because then it's like how many more women are there that are too traumatized or too hurt or too scared to
Right.
or
speak
that
up
or
about
that
this guy
or
who
that don't see it
has-
as bad, or that are like,
Yeah,
this is good. This
right.
was good for me.
Yeah.
Now I have a connection. Like,
Yeah.
how many people don't, or how many people just don't give a shit. We all
Yeah.
all knew that person. We all know
And giving
people
a
like
shit is-
that.
Not giving a shit is just as bad because you're allowing the whole integrity of these people's arguments to just diminish. And that's
Yes
even
and
more
no.
fucked up.
I mean, if there's a 17-year-old girl out there who's like, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do with my body. I wanted to fuck Chris D'Elia. He wants to fuck me. I don't give a fuck about the law.
Yeah.
It's bad still that he did it. The fault is on him. But what I'm saying is, she doesn't devalue other people. She's simply stating that, like, oh well, like this is what I
Right.
wanted to do, and
This is-
I don't
yeah,
give a
my
shit.
choice.
Your personal opinion and my opinion is wrong. We could argue that all day long, but at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's not like that was that person's fault, is what I'm saying.
Right.
You
I
know.
feel you.
Even though I guess
Yeah.
to some degree you could argue that she enables that. She enables him to
Yeah, I guess to
have
some
that
degree.
behavior. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I would still say to me
Did I-
personally,
Hang
the
on.
dude's character is probably beyond helping now. and
If
it's
you were-
probably,
I apologize
Right.
if I interrupted anybody. I turned down my audio by accident with my arm, and I couldn't hear it for a little bit, so I went off on a little rant.
he just didn't want to hear our opinion on this.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm not feeling it.
It's like, this is my time to speak.
I feel like that's how it's been for Tristan the whole time. Tristan's really spoken. Sounds
Yeah.
like somebody who we need to dig through his Twitter.
Tristan just really wants to talk about conspiracy theories right now.
Well, I don't have any.
Ah, God damn it.
Damn
Oh,
it,
we were
Tristan.
going to do this. I thought this was
Every week.
episode.
Yep, I
Yeah.
thought it was gonna be every week, but
Yeah,
Tristan dropped the ball
I
already.
don't have any.
Oh, God.
Well,
I'll have 2 next week.
okay. That's
Okay.
fair.
I won't have one
That's a fair one.
this week.
That's-
Yeah, that's fair.
No, all I wanted to say about Chris D'Elia, that's how you say his name.
Delilah.
Tristan's too good for Chris D'Elia. Is that how you say your name,
Was I-
kid?
First Delilah.
Is that how you say your name, pervert? Um, all I wanted to say was like that's just something that's unforgivable for me. Like that doesn't sit
Yeah.
right with me,
Yeah.
and that's just
Yeah.
cancel him.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially the way he types. Holy fuck.
Yep, he types like our creepy uncle, like our creepy racist grandpa.
I was telling Elijah this yesterday. I went back and watched the episode of You where
I was
Joe
just gonna say
kills
that.
him.
Yeah.
Does it just feel a little real?
It feels.
Yeah, it was just yeah.
Yeah, if
he
you
played it
rewatch
well.
that,
He
like
played it
too
very
well.
well. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but
Like if you go back and watch that, I can't. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna go watch it, but it's like
I didn't-
watching. It's like watching one of those court cases right before they like go commit another crime or something. One of those like eerie.
He could win an Emmy for it simply because he's not acting. He's just being himself.
Right. Huh.
yeah,
Scary shit.
dude. I mean, the world we fucking live in, man. I think in order to be, that's a conversation for another time. But I think a majority of people in Hollywood have dirt on them only on the grounds of in order to. I have a friend who believes in order to get to the top of anything, in order to have any sort of power, you have to do equivalent bad things. But I personally believe that actors,
Well-
comedians, there's a certain level of darkness that you have to have as a person
Yeah.
in order to really shine in the industry. So
Yeah. I feel
So
like
what's
it's
your
like that
stance-
for.
So
Sorry,
what's your
go ahead.
stance on people like R. Kelly? Like, what's your stance on that?
I'm sorry.
Like, what?
R-
is-
I mean,
are
R.
we-
Kelly-
are we
R.
canceling-
Kelly-
Are we canceling R. Kelly or not?
R. Kelly's an
Or-
extreme. R. Kelly's an extreme because it's like I don't think there's any positive thing to say about R. Kelly
Yeah,
besides
R.
he
Kelly-
made some good songs. You know, like
R. Kelly absolutely like held the girl captive pretty much and did not so great shit.
Okay.
R.
don't- yeah,
Kelly's
I don't-
been
I-
canceled for me for a minute.
What
I
about
don't think
Barney?
there's who.
Barney, the
Barney?
purple dinosaur. Yeah.
Yo, what happened with that? I didn't know Barney did something fucked up. I didn't hear about that.
What did Barney
happened?
do?
I don't know. I was just making shit up.
See, I thought you were
had
actually
me-
challenging my ideas, and I was like, "Are you legit being like, what about R. Well, what
You
about
just-
Bill Cosby then, huh? Are we canceling Bill all of a
You just-
sudden?"
You just terrified me because I went back into that state of mind I had earlier with Bill Cosby. I thought you were gonna tell me that like
Not
Barney
again.
was like.
I thought
doing
Barney
some-
actually did do something like behind the scenes, like offset.
Can we talk
he?
about
Like,
how?
not to-
Oh yeah, a few
Not to
Barneys
kids,
did.
but
Yeah.
He's just a bad guy.
Can we talk about how? Well, we gotta really end the podcast here, but can we talk about how great it is that Paw Patrol, is no longer having the police dog or whatever, Chase?
I love it.
Love it.
I laughed at it because I just went not too like in my head it wasn't like a whoa too far, but it was like what does this fucking do? Like it's a kids show, man. Like, and not in the sense
Yeah.
of like what I mean is because they're like, oh well, it gives like a positive representation of the police, bro. I could not tell you the names of any of the characters in any of the kids show that I watched when I was a baby, and that's what Paw Patrol is. It's something that you put on that is a lot of colors and a lot of noise, and babies like that. That's literally it, bro. Like,
on the double.
like when they start forming opinions, I promise they're not going to be like, well, you know, we got to trust the police because if my boy Chase, the police dog, you know, he always taught me my morals. Like, that's what made me laugh. Was I was just like, this is. What does this do? Like, I felt more like a PR stunt than anything. In my mind.
So real quick, I just want to fill in some of the loose ends that we just put in.
Okay.
Apparently, the actor that played Barney in the kids show did go to jail.
Cool.
I
It
knew
was
it.
not for anything sexual. Apparently, he punched a producer in the face.
Nice.
Oh.
We like
Um,
assault.
But then also, which I'm getting this from Huffington Post and TMZ, so take it with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Apparently, he was a sex addict.
I like it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Also, fun fact: the Barney costume was 70 pounds. I didn't know that. So
Jesus Christ.
To be
That must have been
yoked.
hell.
You have to be yoked to be Barney.
I would have
Apparently.
punched my producer in the face too.
Amen. Tristan, you didn't get to sing to open up the episode. Do you want to sing us out?
No, I'm good.
What?
Oh, man. Are you all right, Tristan? You
Yeah, I'm alright.
You have something you want to talk about?
No.
You don't seem to be yourself today, Tristan. You want to?
Tristan, you told me yesterday you had a song that you wanted to do.
You know we're here for you, buddy.
I'm not doing it.
Would you please do it?
I'm not doing it.
Our fans look forward to this.
It's not happening.
Are you really gonna let them down?
All right,
I
listen.
am.
Listen, next episode we're gonna have an extended episode
Baby, I compare you to a kiss from a rose on the grave.
I love
Ooh,
this.
The more I get of you, the stranger it feels. Yeah.
I was
You're
gonna
supposed to back
say-
me up with a yeah.
Yeah! Now that your rose is
Roses
in
in
bloom.
The light turns the oh, fuck it.
Fuck it. All right. See you guys.
Fuck it.
Have a good week.
Bye, everyone.